Neurons for patch management. So many of you probably saw a lot of the functionality we released in July and August. There was a lot of focus in that release on the continuous remediation. So we've really got a strong focus right now on what we're referring to as deploy by risk. Getting to the point where we can have 3 separate tracks of maintenance going on in parallel, the ability to handle more of your monthly routine kind of maintenance. Many of our customers have been asking for a long time for more, targeted ways to handle 0-day and more frequent third-party apps like the browsers especially. So we've created the priority updates and the 0-day response to be able to respond to those types of tracks of remediation simultaneously. So you can have a overlapping set of activities constantly going on that can make sure that you're responding in the right time frames with the right configuration and addressing vulnerabilities in different applications. The October release, we're expanding on that by adding some additional deploy by options. The ability to use our VRR score, VRR group, and known exploited vulnerability content to be able to prioritize things like getting a more targeted focus on exposure-based remediation in that 0-day response task, and even the priority updates if you needed to there. Patch reporting, big one that a lot of you have been asking for. We're going to show you guys the demo today that I'm going to show is of the reporting experience, and I'm going to open up a couple of those reports that have been generated and show you what's coming for the October release. And in January, we're going to have additional reports coming. So I'll talk about that a little bit more. Support for enablement patches. So these are the lightweight patches that Microsoft has periodically released. There's about 13 of them overall that let you go from a specific branch to a later branch of Windows 10 or 11. So we're adding support for those in. There will be 2 different ways that you'll be able to add those to a policy. And then we're doing some deployment history usability enhancements. A lot of things that we've been interacting with our customers using the Neurons patch experience and prioritizing how to better improve that experience. So giving you kind of a glimpse of some of those features, we've got the deploy by risk, the additional capabilities like VRR score, VRR group, and known exploited. You can see here in the graphic, this is going to be in your deploy options for your policy, but you'll be able to go in, enable the deploy by risk score, be able to turn on any combination of these 3 items. So if you wanted to do the VRR score, you'd be able to toggle that on and use your slider to say anything of a VRR score of this or above is what you'd want to approve for that particular configuration. If you're still focused more on CVSS, we do have the support for that in here as well. And then the ability to deploy patches for known exploited vulnerabilities. So this could be used in combination. You could say, I want to do anything with a VRR score of 8 and above, or if it has a known exploited vulnerability. If there's something that's a lower score than that, but it has a known exploit against it, that can give you a combination where you can say anything with that 8 or above, or if it's lower but has a known exploited vulnerability, and get the combination of variables that you want to be able to meet the policy requirements that you're striving for. So some new deployment options that were added there. On the Linux side, Linux, for those of you who are more focused on the Linux side, you know that there's not all flavors of Linux are created equally. There's several that are more security focused and some that are not. So for those, like especially the Oracle family of Red Hat, Oracle Linux, you get a lot more security context and metadata in those particular flavors. We're adding the ability to do a more dynamic configuration for the Linux configurations to be able to do a deploy by severity. So you could say, I want to do bug fix and security criticals as my policy, and that would then pull in any security advisories or specific packages that are focused on bug fixes for that. That gives you the ability to get more fine-tuned in your configuration for Linux. Reporting. So this is the one that I think many of you are itching to get your hands on. We had the compliance reporting experience. We had the grids in the product today. Even some people who have used the APIs in the platform to extract enough data to be able to look at it and do more detailed reporting on. But we have got the first release of reporting in line. I'm going to show you an actual platform-generated version of this report right now, but this is the mock-up. There's 3 out of the 9 reports we have planned coming in the October release, and we will have the additional reports coming in January. The reports are designed around a risk-based approach. So those of you using the on-prem patch solutions, you know that there's the reports are, there's a variety of them. There's a lot of customizability to it. One thing that has changed as we've developed the cloud experience, though, is any of you who watch the Patch Tuesday webinar series, you know the infographic we put out. There's a number of things that we've been refining in that over the years. Information density being one of them. How to cram more of the vital information that you need into a space that's not going to make it so that I have to do an export to Excel, and it's going to make it so it scrolls like 30 pages to the right. Trying to make it so we get the right amount of density, the right amount of information. The other part that we've brought into this is really a focus around risk. The whole design of the report brings your attention to the things you need to be most concerned about. How many missing patches do I have? Do I have any known exploits? Grouping the missing patches versus install, the use of color, of shading, of icons, of sorting. All of this is designed to draw your attention to the most risky things in your environment first and help you to focus that prioritization of trying to identify what I need to focus on first and foremost. Now, you do see 4 templates on screen right now. We're only getting 3 of these for October. Apologies. They started working on the first of the detailed reports, but you're going to get the patches by device summary, devices by patch, and deployment history summary reports in this first go around. So we're actually going to have 4 pivot points. This was based on a lot of surveys and usability interactions we did with a number of customers. Some of you may have even participated in that, but we asked, what types of questions do you normally get asked? And really what it broke down to was there's 4 different ways we need to pivot the data in these reports to make it so that out of the box you can quickly get to the information you need. There's device-based reports, which is more of a compliance view. I want to know the devices in my environment, how many missing or installed patches, what's the general level of compliance that I have. There's the patch perspective, which is I've got more of a, I want to look at the set of patches that I'm testing right now and determine of those, how many of those are compliant, more of a kind of a maintenance window type report. The third is the actual deployment itself. A lot of our troubleshooting activities focus around looking at the deployment events specifically, so that's where we get deployment history. The fourth one, which unfortunately we're not going to get the summary of in October, that'll be coming in January, is more of a vulnerability perspective. So CVE based. So this is something that in most of our on-prem products we didn't get very far into. In the cloud product, we wanted to provide that crossover into the security perspective. So we'll have a summary and detailed version of the CVE based reports as well. So with each of these, you'll be able to select the report that you wanted to choose. You're going to have a variety of different options for filtering, the devices, the patches, even the vulnerabilities that you want to report on. The initial experience will have PDF, Excel, and CSV export options. Down the road here, we are going to be adding additional features for scheduled reporting, for emailed reporting, and other things like that as well. This will be the on-demand reporting to begin with. Let me jump over to my reports then, and I'm going to show you what this looks like. There's a lot of testing going on yet, so don't be thrown off by all the failures and stuff in here right now. But this is an active test tenant. I can see the different reports, the most recent 3 reports that I personally have generated across the top. I can also see the list of all the different reports that have been generated in my tenant, and I can go in here and actually filter down to only the ones that I've personally created too, if I want to just find something that I was looking for. Or maybe Jaco generated a report for me and he, told me to go looking for it. I could filter to him and find the list of reports that he'd been doing. In this case, we'll jump over to mine. I've got 3 reports that I had generated, and I've got options here to be able to view the details, download them, delete the report if I want to. So I'll view the details of this report. You can see here the devices that were selected. I exported it to PDF format, the date and time that I generated this, all that type of information available for you there. So we'll go ahead and download that. And over on my other screen, my PDF. So this is giving me that report. It's the device-based report giving me the device, how many missing patches it had. In this case, it's got 2 known exploits on it. I can see the missing patches. It's kind of zoomed way in here, but we can look at that and see the VRR score is where everything is sorted by. So I see the highest VRR scores to the top. I can see which of these updates have a known exploit against them, similar to the icon you see in Patch Intelligence. So again, everything about this is trying to focus your attention on what things do I need to be most concerned about. All right. Keeping on time
Chris,
here. Go ahead,
Chris.
Graham.
Mark has popped a question in the chat. Mark, it's quite a lengthy one. Did you want to ask it?
Yeah, it was just because you were going through the ability to do the deployment based off the risk, the exploit. It went through fairly quickly. So I was just wondering, is there going to be the ability to combine that with the standard sort of severity deployment, since vendor ones may be listed as critical, but they also may not have any severity data?
Yes. So the way that deploy options work is you can use multiple combinations of things. So I could have the vendor severity, and I could choose only things that are vendor critical. We all know that a lot of the vulnerabilities that are actively being exploited aren't the ones that the vendor says is critical. So that's where these additional options come in. So if I say vendor critical, but I also want to include things that have a known exploit against them, that helps me make sure that I've got those ones that were only an important but had a known exploit against it. So a combination of those filters may be what you're looking for to meet your specific configuration needs.
Good. Yeah, I wanted to make sure it wasn't mutually exclusive. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. And there's a lot of different creative ways you can do things in there. You can even use combinations of vendor severity, deploy by risk, use of the patch group to do things like an exclusion. So I dynamically include a bunch of things, but I want to block 2 or 3 patches that I know break something in my environment. So use of the multiple deployment options helps you to achieve the right combination of filters for what you want. All right. I think I'm caught up on questions there. Perfect. So the enablement patches, again, very straightforward. There's going to be 2 ways to configure this. This is for this is not the ISO like full branch upgrades yet. It's the enablement patches, which basically Microsoft has already pushed the bits in place. You're just flipping the bit to say feature flag the new branch on. There's, I believe, 13 or so of these. You're going to have 2 ways that you can configure this. You can use the patch group to be able to pull those into a policy. You'll also be able to go into a more distinctive settings section that'll be created in your Windows settings, where you'll be able to go and explicitly choose the specific enablement patches that you want to approve for that policy. So it gives you a little bit of flexibility to use other formats like the patch group the way that the product works today for most people. We've also made a more specific enablement patch experience to make it more obvious and help you find those things easier, because they tend to get buried into the massive amount of content out there pretty easily. Reboot customization, we're adding in some ability to customize that reboot. This is an earlier screenshot. The final version will actually be coming in November, so a little bit after the October release, towards the end of October, early November. But this will give you the ability to go in and actually customize the reboot dialog a bit and be able to also create locales. So for those of you with multiple languages in play, you can actually go in and create the different locales with the different text for each one. You can set your default locale and so on to make sure that you've got the configuration that's right for your environment. And deployment history. This is one that we've been collecting some feedback on, taking a look at use case or support cases and other things like that, and really trying to figure out how do we enhance this to make it a lot easier to resolve deployment issues. So there's going to be a couple of new charts and tiles coming up at the top. There's actually a new one as well that where we were designing after I got this screenshot. That's going to be a bar chart. The goal here is to give you 1 to 2 clicks to be able to filter all of your deployments down to a very specific set so you can troubleshoot them in large batches and start with the most numerous and work your way through. You'll also be able to change the time frame that you're looking at it. And there's a few more things that longer term we're going to be doing, looking at a patch versus device-based perspective. So if I come in here, I could click on the failed patches and I could see only the failed patches very quickly and easily. And then the bar chart that's there may have it broken down by the top 10 different errors that I'm seeing. Maybe download failure was my top one. So I want to click on that and see all the deployments that have download as the failure so I could work on troubleshooting those first. Giving you that ability to quickly work through deployment issues when you come across them, especially for complex environments where you do see these more frequently, just trying to ease that overall experience. All right, Todd.
All right, let's talk about patch for Intune. We've been cranking out a lot of features over the last couple of quarters, and this quarter there's going to be one major feature coming out. It's control over language installation and updates, as well as locale-specific installers. In the past, unfortunately, when we've had browsers that somebody had customized and set up to like maybe be in French, when we came through and did a software update, we were stomping on it with an English version. So in this case, what we've done is we've now broken out all the individual installers for those products that provide installers and other or updaters and other languages. And so what we've done in the system is you can go through and define the default language that you want to use within your particular instance. So this will be off of the global page where you choose your global language default for installation. And then individually within a group, you can choose specific languages that you want to use for different groups. So you can see here in test group 2, this is again just a mock-up screen of kind of what we're coming up with that will be released here in October. You can choose the default language for that particular group. And in that way, you can very easily manage the different languages that you might have in your different groups of systems. And you can do it by group, and also you can also do it by individual application within a group. So you can see here, if you come in from the product side as opposed to the group side, you can go through and assign the different language that you want for that particular group for that application. So nice feature there. You'll be able to maintain and update systems without, again, overwriting previous languages that have been installed for your particular endpoints. So that's kind of the one major feature that we have coming up in Patch for Intune this quarter. Moving on to security controls, 2024.4. I think you know that this year has kind of been the year of Linux patching for security controls. We've changed out the overall approach that we're taking, going to a contentless version. We're supporting that, as you can see across the bottom of the screen here, as the start for Red Hat, CentOS, and Oracle Linux. Basically, what we're doing is taking advantage of the package manager for all patch operations. We're talking to the repositories that you have set up in your environment, so that anything basically that you can patch with the package manager, you'll be able to collect information on that and perform updates. So you're no longer limited by just the handful of operating system and third-party updates that we can provide here from Ivanti. So basically opens up that whole environment to you. Really excited about it. We've been releasing this in a phased release over all of 2024. We started with kind of the scan all, patch all approach, getting all the fundamentals in place, moving to be adding patch groups. Then we added packages and CVSS scoring. And here in 24.4, we're adding patch by type and severity. And Chris explained this quite well, and you look like a very similar slide to what Chris had in the Neurons patch. Basically, we have patch by type and patch by severity. You can see the UI looks very similar to what we have on the Neuron side, but you're going to get this in security controls. And basically, you'll be able to choose criticalities. You'll be able to choose the type, whether it be bugs or enhancements, etc., in security controls coming up here in the October release. So really excited to kind of finishing out the first set of functionality on the contentless Linux patching. We still have a number of things to do. We are, for example, updating a number of the reports to now include the contentless Linux patching. We will have the patch status report by device completed, and we also have the power status report by device completed as well. So there are a few more that we're going to do, and we'll be releasing those in January. We're also starting updates on the APIs underneath security controls to control the Linux patching as well. So again, kind of finishing out the contentless Linux patching, but we have a very robust roadmap ahead in 2025, like we did in 2024, and hopefully you are taking advantage of it. And please, those of you who are security controls users, provide your valuable feedback to us so we can improve upon the updates. That's it for me, Chris.
I'm going to be talking about the updates we've made to Ivanti Neurons for RBVM and ASOC. This first one we're talking about is a new Orca integration. The Orca application is giving users a lot of data for their vulnerabilities on their network as well as their applications. So we're going to be bringing this into both RBVM and ASOC. The vulnerabilities related to the network side will be aggregated with your data that you have already for your other network tools that you're running. And your app side as well will be on the ASOC side with all of that new Orca data. So we're going to be, of course, integrating with our threat and intelligence and showing you your prioritization in our widgets, and as well as giving your VRR based on what Orca is telling us the risks are. So we have we're using the Orca API to pull this data. Orca has asked us to do a report-based connector, so we'll be generating those reports and downloading them. There are going to be more than 60 new fields, scanner-specific fields for Orca, and these are going to also include group bys and filters that will help you visualize the data in the same way that you can in Orca, which basically will mean that you'll have the alert level, and then you can group by your incident. So the other thing that we're working on for integration side is the ServiceNow auto ticketing. So this will be helpful for either your integrations with ASOC or RBVM. You'll basically be able to continue to automate and streamline your ticket creation process. So we've added new functions to ServiceNow, similar to as we did in Jira earlier this year. We are working on basically giving you more fields to map to your tickets so that you can get the right details that you're pulling out of your data that is in RBVM and ASOC. So this new form will allow you to lock fields so that you can make sure that your tickets are created consistently, as well as you can set different fields for synchronization so that each time the ticket gets into that state, it'll sync back that status of your ticket into our platform. So lastly, the most exciting thing, which I'd like to show you a little demo of, is how to enable auto ticket creation using our new collections feature. So we've always had the capability for you to click on a finding and say, I would like to create a ticket for this. And that'll be based on the connector settings. But this new feature that we've introduced this year and had enabled for Jira is now being added for ServiceNow, and we've implemented it already for ServiceNow service requests, and we're working on other types of ServiceNow tickets as well for November. So these collections that you see here on the left here are similar to our system views in that they are a set of filters that you've created. So in this case, I'm wanting to create tickets for any asset that's critical and that has weaponized attack. So once I've decided that these are the things I want to create tickets for, I would choose the action to create a configuration for auto ticketing. So once I've selected the one that's going to be my test for this ticket creation, you can see here that these tickets are grouped by title. So I would have one ticket created for every title that fits into this critical assets with weaponized tag. So it would create an estimated of 24,000 tickets. Obviously, that's a lot, but I was trying to just come up with a demo. So I can put in my ServiceNow ticket option now, and as we add the incident side for ServiceNow, you'll also be able to click on that connector as well. So it loads up just like you see in your configuration options, and you have the ability to dynamically produce the form that ServiceNow is presenting on the other side, and you can choose your connector type, your ticket type, and all the configuration options that you have when you're configuring the connector. And once you've selected that, you can see a summary of what you're going to create, and then it lets you throttle not only the sync states, but it lets you throttle how many tickets you are going to create over a period of time, so that you don't overwhelm the system with too many tickets. Okay, so for the feature side of RBVM, we are currently working on a beta for a feature that'll allow you to configure severity. Severity, we have two methods of prioritizing findings. One of them is severity, and the other one is our internal scoring mechanism via R that takes into account like the threat context and the CVEs associated with the findings. So customizing severity will allow you to fine tune that particular scoring mechanism to maybe weight certain factors that already go into it over others. A couple of use cases that it would be able to allow would include being able to prioritize CVSS 3.0 over the scanner severity, or allowing you to copy the VRR score into severity and then therefore be able to apply a workflow, the severity change workflow, to specific findings that for some reason, either internally due to organizational policies or due to environmental reasons, you wanted to change that specific score. Severity is already integrated into our list views, into pretty much all of the widgets, and also into our little quick interactions menu that's shown here. So any changes that you'd be putting into this new feature would automatically be reflected by that. Moving on here, I need to click, there we go. Notifications. So we recently introduced a new API token expiration feature that is configurable at the client level and allows the client to set the expiration dates for all user token issue between 30 and 365 days. And then users can sign up for a notification that'll notify them when that token is going to stop working. And then also we introduced a notification for workflow automation, automated workflows, basically when they stop adding new findings. And that can happen anywhere between when it's created and when it's approved. And then you just would have to go back in and turn it on unless that workflow is expired. And then the automation feature would no longer be needed for that particular workflow. And then also, which I'll quickly demo these as well, a number of customers we've had in the past have wanted widgets that showed finding discovery from when the scanner discovered it, not when it was ingested into the platform. So we've added some nearly identical widgets that showed mean time to remediate and timelines of ingestion based on actually scanner detection. And but basically they work identical, other than that they need to be used specifically with scanners that provide the first discovered on date. Not all scanners do that. Okay, so for the widgets, these are just some examples of some widgets that we've added. So we have some KPIs for mean time to remediate for findings under SLA, a breakdown by VRR score over here, and then findings discovered versus resolved. So this is very similar to another widget we have on the prioritization dashboard, I believe. And then there was also a recent client request to add the ability to group this widget, the findings ingested versus resolved, and the findings summary by
groups. And when you do this, it'll ignore the group filters that are applied at the dashboard level. So this is a little bit of a behavioral change when you add specific groups. You can also add more than one group. So for people whose leaders, are maybe looking at having a domain that includes multiple groups, or translates to multiple asset groups within the platform, then they can actually filter on multiple groups for this one particular widget. And then you can put multiple widgets on the dashboard. For custom severity, I don't actually have it all configured to a new version on this, but I want to kind of step through the process. So by default, our severity is the highest of CVSS v2, v3 at normalized scanner severity. So this is what client would look like before they ever applied it. And then you could go to configuring the severity, and you could either have highest of, and then it could be of scanner severity, VR, CVSS v2, and CVSS v3. Or you can go to priority order, which means that it will always look for the highest of the scores in the first scoring metric that you want to use. So in this case, if I didn't rearrange it, let's rearrange it. Let's say that I prefer V2 for some reason, then I could look for the highest of the V2 scores first. And unless the finding didn't have any, in which case it would go to V3, then you would always pick the highest of the V2 scores. Then you continue to confirmation, and you would get your confirmation screen and then a warning that this is going to take several days to go through the platform. Will recalculate the scores for all open findings, and the process will also be changing all of the scores in the platform. So you probably will want to hold off on doing any audits or estimations of how much you've remediated until this process is done. When the scores are finalized, the score is going to show up in here. It'll be in the little severity bubble, and then it'll show you the version that it was calculated for. So this version number will help you track kind of, particularly for close findings, since they're not going to be calculated during the migration when the last time the score was calculated for those findings.
Hi all, I'll be covering ESM today. So Ivanti Neurons for ESM, external attack surface management. A quick brief on what we delivered in Q3. So in Q3, we delivered the ability to generate reports, ESM reports. Also, we added, so the way ESM works, some of you would be already knowing this, but so the user adds an primary asset to start with, okay, which scans your total attack surface, okay? The primary asset can be a domain or an host name or an IP, okay? So there's a backend crawl behind the scenes that happens, and your entire set of assets, external facing assets and all the exposures that can be network security, vulnerabilities, even email security or DNS security, whatever. So various exposure types are covered, and so based on the crawl that happens, all the set of assets and exposures are reported, and the data gets refreshed every few hours. Okay, that's how ESM works quickly. Okay, so what we delivered in Q3 is ability for our analysts, right, security team analysts, to quickly filter this data, right, and review, for example, whether some asset has ransomware related vulnerabilities or not. So if you can see, we added all these filters which can help our analysts quickly review the data, as well as we also said, what assets is one thing, but being able to assign the right criticality, right? What is a business critical asset? What is an asset with a minor importance? This is very important. So we delivered that feature as well in Q3. Okay, so this is how our asset section looks like. So with these in place, I'm going to tell you what is new in Q4. On top of this, so building on top of this, right, what we delivered in Q4, first and foremost, is workspaces. Okay, so workspaces are like workspaces in an account, right, are like business units in your organization, right? So on the basis of workspaces, you can add, like I said, I was mentioning about primary assets earlier, okay, based on which the entire attack surface assessment happens and the data is collected. So now with workspaces, you can add specific seed domains or primary domains to specific workspace. How it helps our customers is that the data is containerized, meaning assets and exposures of a single workspace are exclusive to that workspace. Okay, users of other workspaces will not be able to see them. Okay, so if an organization security team want to organize work based on business units or geography based, it's up to them. So this feature acts as a basis for them to effectively organize their work among the security personnel. So that's what it is. Workspaces fundamentally. Of course, there are few more enhancements we did in Q4, building on top of workspaces as well. I would be covering them very quickly. So first and foremost, what we did, we revamped our dashboards, with workspaces into the picture, right? Our dashboards now contain a view where our users can select which specific workspace they want to see. They want to see the data for, So if you see, initially, the way we segregated our navigation menu slightly changed now with workspaces into the picture. Now you have a way to select a specific workspace. If you see the drop down, a user can select a specific workspace and can see all the data, all the assets and exposures related to that workspace. And there is an all workspaces view as well. Okay, sort of the whole account view. So wherein all the assets, all the exposures related to all the assets in their account, they can see that. Okay, so in a nutshell, this is about workspaces. So when we deliver workspaces, naturally, we have enhanced our reporting functionality to be able to generate reports specific to the workspace. So I'll just quickly show you. So this is how our reporting page looks like, ESM report page. So the experience is going to be largely the same. Chris has showed you how the reporting framework looks like. There are a lot of commonalities here. So when you create a new report now, you get to choose a workspace, right? And you get to choose a workspace and say, this is the report I'm generating for my ESM on this specific workspace. What you also get in this view is being able to filter by workspace. Like I said, workspaces are important because of the way the security team organizes their work, right? So when you generate a report, so the workspace report gets generated. If you see, like, let us say, so this workspace I generated the report for, I had some 25,000 assets. If you can see, my total number of assets are 25,000, in my account, but the specific workspace I selected is specific to some 39 assets. Okay, so you have this flexibility of creating workspaces for specific domains, and you being able to generate reports for those workspaces is the new enhancement. Along with that, obviously, so building on top of it, okay, we also recognize there are scenarios wherein transfer of asset ownership and transfer of asset visibility is important. Okay, that reasons can be skill set, or reasons can be the way the assets and based on their business criticality. Like, for example, assets of R&D teams and finance teams are very important. Maybe senior analysts want to have a look at them. Okay, they want them in their exclusive purview. Okay, they don't want junior analysts to have a look at them, right? So other departments, okay, I'm fine even if junior analysts take a look at them. So these kind of scenarios may arise. So we recognize that, and what we provided now is a way to move assets across workspaces. So the users will have this flexibility. This is another layer of flexibility of being able to move assets across workspaces. Okay, so this is how the workspaces page looks like. Whenever, like I said, I just want to show you, whenever we create a workspace, right? So I can add multiple seeds to it. Okay, I can add multiple. When I said seeds, the primary assets or seed assets. Okay, it can be a domain, it can be a host name, IP address, net block, anything. So based on this, the entire crawl happens, and your external attack surface data is presented to you for those workspaces. Okay, so moving back. Okay, last but not the least, one more incremental enhancement we did is the way improvement to the way we report our exposures. Okay, so earlier, in addition to the detail we provide on different exposure types. Like I mentioned, we provide exposure types, network security, DNS health, social engineering, all these types are covered. So now with this Q4 release, you'll be seeing more evidence for these exposures. Let us say, when we say, okay, you know what, you have some blocklisted IPs, now we are presenting the source based on which we flag them as blocklisted. Okay, so that's one. Okay, and wherever the evidence is relevant or the source links are relevant, let us say we realize there are email addresses of your employees, those were leaked, so now those exposures will contain source links to those pages on your websites, marketing websites or others, okay, where these actually leaked email addresses are present, so that they can be used by hackers for phishing activities. So enhancements are being improved now. We are providing more evidence wherever relevant so that security analyst team, our customers, can take necessary actions on them. That's the last. I can show you some of them very quickly. So like I said, these are the filters based on which I can select. So let us go to DNS health and take a look at some of the exposures. So let us take, so I have an exposure which says, you know what, the DNS security is not properly enforced. Your remote name server, it does not enforce the necessary security. Okay, earlier we were saying this, and we are just providing the impacted assets. Okay, these are the impacted assets. Go ahead, take a look, review them. But now what we wanted to be is more specific. Provide actionable evidence. We are now with this evidence in place, we specifically say these are the name servers you need to take a look at. Okay, these are the impacted assets, these are the name servers, okay, where DNS security is not properly enforced. Go fix them. So that's what this enhancement is about.
Graham, if you want to wrap us up.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chris. So thanks to the team for some great information there. Thanks for everyone who's attended, and we'll look forward to seeing you at a user group session near you sometime soon. Other than that, have a great rest of your day wherever you might be, and we'll see you again soon.